Hi, my name is Anna Maria Beckler, and I am an education coordinator at the Canadian Light Source. I thought it would be neat to show you around the Life Sciences Lab, which we work with the most with students, so you have an idea of what it looks like and the safety precautions we have at this lab. Okay, let's go. And here we are, the Life Sciences Lab at the Canadian Light Source. You'll notice the natural light can get into the lab, which is nice to remind you how long you've been in there. Anyways, there are some signage on the door. These signs are used to communicate information to users. For example, there is a caution sign that indicates what hazards might be present in the laboratory and what personal protection equipment is required for entry. This lab is used with students in our education programs, and when these students are in the lab, we have a sign that restricts access to other users. This ensures that students are safe and that hazardous samples are not present. Now that we have seen all the signage, we can enter the lab. To enter the lab, you require additional safety training than the training you take to enter the facility. Lab safety training is important because it provides expectations and additional information for your safety when you do work in the laboratory. For example, we are required to wear long pants and closed-toed and heel shoes when entering the lab. This is expected of us because we completed the lab safety training. Okay, let's go in. As you recall from the sign, we're required to wear personal protective equipment such as a lab coat, goggles, and gloves. So let me just put those on. Additional personal protective equipment might be required depending on the chemicals you're using, so always check the MSDS sheet before preparing your samples or starting your experiment. Okay, let's look and see what safety measures are in place in this lab. Here we have a workstation. We have a splash guard, or a mat, in this case aluminum foil. This is used to contain your chemical waste and samples in one place. You can also use a blue absorbent mat if you are using liquids. Now, what happens if you accidentally got some of that hazardous chemical on you? Well, you would go to the emergency wash stations. These emergency wash stations in the lab help clean off hazardous chemicals. Pretty handy on-the-spot decontamination stations. Poof, they flush away the chemical. There is a shower for whole body flush and the eye station if you get chemical in the eye. The Canadian Light Source has many features in place to ensure the safety of users and staff. For example, if the shower or the eye wash station are activated, then there is an alarm which notifies the CLS, and additional support can be provided to you. That's pretty cool. Now, if we go back to our workstation and say you have not accidentally got some of that hazardous chemical on you, but are ready to clean up your work area, then you would dispose of your hazardous chemical waste in a chemical container disposal bin. Make sure your waste is labeled properly and sealed in a container or bag so it can be dealt with by Health and Safety Department safely. There's also additional chemical waste disposal in the fume hood. There are 6 categories to put your chemical waste in, such as acids or bases, so make sure you put your chemical waste in the appropriate container and record it. This fume hood is used as a local exhaust ventilation that draws potentially contaminated air from the workspace. Your workstation might be in the fume hood, or you would do a part of your experiment or sample prep in here. Any volatile chemicals, like formaldehyde, must be worked in a fume hood. So now you got all your hazardous chemicals waste put away. What if you were working with non-hazardous chemicals? Well, that waste can go into the garbage. But remember, if you accidentally broke some non-contaminated glassware, make sure you put the glassware in the glass container. It does not belong in the garbage. If your glassware was contaminated, you would place it in a designated container so that health and safety can deal with it properly. The last thing I want to show you is the autoclave. This is used for non-anatomical solid biohazardous waste, like infected tree bark. The waste would be placed in a biohazard bag and autoclaved to be inactivated. To inactivate or sterilize the object, steam at high temperatures and pressure is used. Then the bag would be dealt with appropriately by health and safety. And that is basically the safety measures used in the lab. Again, additional safety might be required depending on the chemicals and samples you would be using. So I'll remove my personal protective equipment and see myself out the lab. Remember to never leave the lab with your lab coat. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it provided you with an insight into some of the safety measures used in a lab at the Canadian Light Source.